Oh, welcome to the Edinburgh Bookshop on the sofa with Alan Trotter. It's very nice to have you here with your wonderful book, Muscle.
Thank you very much.
Would you read a little bit from the book?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So this is a bit from the middle of the book. All I think you need to know is that the main character, whose name is Box, is going to spend the night in a hotel where he knows the hotel detective, the hotel keeper. So that's what's happening. Sorry, this is Sylvie, my dog.
Yes,
She's a little mischief.
Should have introduced Sylvie as well.
Very handsome.
Shop favourite, and yeah,
Okay.
always away to our hearts. Bring us the dogs, eh?
Right.
Yeah.
We sat in the radio room and listened to music. My peeper friend was in an armchair, looking like someone had just used him to mop up a spill, and not only half wrung him out. He looked a lot shorter than he used to. We'd been in a bar once where he'd won a bet that he could lift me off the ground for 10 seconds. I was allowed to fight it, but not with my arms or legs. He'd struggled, but he managed it, and there are plenty of police wagons that wouldn't. As some piano played through the radio, he told me that when he'd taken the night shift in the hotel, he'd thought it might take him a while to adjust. He spent the first 2 weeks where every thought he had, there was always another thought behind it. He mimed playing the piano and said, whatever was going on up here, and he twirled his fingers in his right hand, down here, and he did the same way over on the left, there was always this thought, I'm earthly tired, yes sir. And then after a couple of months, he'd realised that he'd never stopped being tired. Those chords were still there, he had just stopped hearing them. It had been 3 years, and every day he was more tired. A few hours later, he was called to a room where there had been a disturbance. A drunk had thrown a bottle of scotch against his wall, irritating his neighbour, and then passed out, his breathing strained. I helped him carry the drunk across the street into an alley. We found a blanket behind an empty vegetable crate and laid it over him, and went back to the radio room. If the drunk's breathing went from strained to stopped, it wouldn't be good for my friend if it happened in the hotel. My friend, the housekeeper, sat back in his armchair, lighted his pipe, and shook out the match. The piano music continued tinnily from behind the lit panel of the radio. He sighed with the grandness of a stately death. You hear that? He asked, and his left hand played its keys in the air. Just then, I couldn't hear anything else. Stop there.
Yeah. Piqued the interest. What would you say are you most pleased with or proud of about this book?
Oh, that's a good question. One I don't have a particularly good answer for. It's been a really long... It's a book that took a lot of work and a lot of time to write for being not a very long book. I spent almost a decade, no, I say almost a decade, more than a decade writing it. So I'm most pleased and proud that I finished it.
Yes.
That it, I think a much more rational response at some point in that 10-year passage of time would be to stop. And I somehow didn't, and somehow managed to convince some of the people around me that I wasn't just tilting windmills, that it was actually a worthwhile thing with an end point. And it did eventually have an end point, and I'm very proud of the way it ended up, the book it became. So
yeah, great. Yeah, totally, absolutely. Well, this is it. There's an awful lot of partly finished novels in drawers, aren't there? Finishing is absolutely key. Yeah. Well, would you like to pick a lucky dip question from the Cat in the Hat's hat?
Okay. What is your favourite aspect of the writing process? I am not a writer who loves writing, and I think that's probably typical. I think most writers would tell you that they struggle with writing. So that's part of the experience of writing. I am someone who kind of loops endlessly over what I write. I write through iteration and through just circling back through and through and through, and until a sentence. And my first drafts are things to behold. And I don't even really produce first drafts. I produce first draft sentence, and then by the time you've got anything that you would call a first draft, I've been over that sentence dozens of times. My favourite part of the writing process is the point where you're still where there's still scope for surprising yourself. I think that's where a lot of the joy is, and that even though that's the hardest, where you're not sure what the book is, you're not sure what the thing you're writing is, that's the kind of sparkiest, most delightful bit, and then later on in the process where you're still winnowing, but you feel less allowed to play. Is still good, but it's not as fun.
That's a bit more the graft. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's all awful. So
yeah. So suffering for your craft. Yeah. It's quite a poetic way to write, to be holding every sentence.
Yeah. Poetry's not something I've never written poetry, but I think it probably is something that lots of poets feel as well, that kind of focus. And whereas it's a strange thing, because Muscle's so based on, a lot of it's kind of a pastiche of noir and hard-boiled detective fiction, and a lot of that stuff was generated at incredible speed to fill a kind of commercial function. And I was kind of remaking a lot of that and unmaking it, and doing that through this completely different, odd, prolonged experience of what writing was. So it's an odd contrast.
Yeah, a carefully honed version. Yeah. Want to go for the lucky dip again?
Okay. Oh, what are your hopes for your book? I work in publishing as well, which I think has helped me. The thing it's been most useful for in writing a book is that it gave me a good sense of expectations of what it meant to write a book, to have a book out in the world. My hopes for the book have largely been completely fulfilled by the fact that it's been published. I thought it's a strange book, and I thought it might struggle to find an audience. I thought there would be people who would click with and who would really appreciate it, and that they would be weirdos like myself, and it might take some time for those people to come out to reach the book. And actually, it's been out a month now. No, wait, 2 months now. God. And it's been really well reviewed. There's been quite a lot of reviews. There's been interviews and wee bits and bobs, and I know how rare that is for a debut novel. And I just feel extremely lucky that it's already had a lot of people thoughtfully responding to it in a way that I feel incredibly lucky and really glad that that's happened already. So my hopes beyond this I would feel incredibly selfish and petty, so I probably shouldn't go into any more.
Great.
That's okay.
Well, just enjoy. Absolutely. Should we go for one more?
Yeah, sure. Oh, what is your favourite place for reading and for writing? I think if I had to pick one favourite place for both, it would probably be on a train. I really enjoy train journeys when a train isn't too full, when you can get a seat, and ideally the seat beside you, and you're not stressed by the timings of your travel or any whatever other concerns. There's something nice and empty about that space and that time that is a bit unlike any other time that you're likely to get. So I think train. I travelled. There was definitely times during the 10 years I was writing Muscle where I was traveling by train all the time, and that was really good and useful. So yeah, love a train journey for getting some reading done.
Yeah. Great, thank you so much. And that perhaps leads us to the next question, which is what is coming up next? What are you riding on trains writing now?
There's not as much train journeying at the moment, but I've got a kind of idea for a second novel that I've started writing, and it's a slow process, but I'm hoping it's not going to be as slow. But it's very kind of early days and sketchy ideas, and I've got a few pages rather than hundreds, and I'm trying to corral myself before kind of plunging into it. But I am writing a second book.
Great. Well, we will hold you to that.
Okay.
Look forward to seeing it. Hopefully not 10 years. We can do with having it sooner than 10 years. Yeah. Your fans await now.
Okay.
But meanwhile, thank you so much for coming to see us. We have Muscle in the shop, signed copies even. We look forward to what's next.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.